Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
Please know we had a plan. Our people are safe, so that's the most important thing.
An anxious wait for thousands of people forced from their homes by wildfires in northeast BC.
The support from Fort St. John people have been really nice too.
Plus,
we've added nearly 350 additional sailings.
We've regularized many of our casual positions.
more staff, more maintenance, and more inclusive washrooms. BC Ferries gets ready for the busy summer travel season after last year's rough waters.
One piece is hiring, the second piece is retaining people.
And
we have come together to demand a solution for a basic need for truckers.
Where to park. Local truckers say they need thousands more spaces for their rigs.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Hello, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. Officials watching the Parker Lake wildfire near Fort Nelson say the fire's western and southern flanks have grown, though it's still about 2 kilometers away from that community. But a second out-of-control fire is now burning north of Fort Nelson. Our Michelle Gassoub has been in Fort St. John, where many people are evacuating to. She joins us now. Michelle, what are the most pressing risks to that community now?
Well, Dan, we just came out of a community meeting. Around 400 evacuees were packed into this hockey arena to hear the latest update. And that update was largely good news. Over the past 2 days, the wind pushed that fire south towards the river, which of course creates a natural barrier to stop that fire from growing. But there is concern about a second wildfire of note that is north of the city. Take a listen to the mayor.
The problem is that Patrick fire. You know, there's no sense holding back. We might as well let you know that that Patrick fire is burned within 25 kilometers north of the community. It's burning mainly along the river.
And this was a highly emotional meeting, Dan. You could hear the relief when they had that update that the Parker Lake fire has largely held. You could hear the concern, people learning of that second fire. At some point, there were cheers when they brought out an emergency worker who coordinated that evacuation, because this was one of the first times the whole community has come together since they were evacuated.
Michelle, we're also hearing some frustration, though, from evacuees in Fort St. John. What are they telling you?
Well, it's important to keep in mind that the number of evacuees here has swelled from 1,400 to 3,000. That is simply a huge number of people for a small community to take in. So people are now being directed elsewhere to Chetwynd, Dawson, Crete, Prince George. Around 231 people now arrived and registered in Prince George. And people are expressing frustration with accessing emergency services like vouchers and getting reimbursed for hotels. Take a listen to one woman we spoke with as she came out of the center.
The websites were crashing, and I'm still very appreciative. Just maybe if we could figure that out, just because some elders I know were having issues too, and it is kind of a hassle. It's really exhausting trying to figure that out.
So there is frustration, there is also gratitude. It might be hard to believe, Dan, but just 5 minutes ago, it was absolutely pouring. And we saw the mayor come out. It was pouring rain. He put his hands to the sky and he said, we need more of this. So people will be watching those rainy conditions we're expecting tomorrow and hoping for the best.
Thank you, Michelle. Michelle Gassoub joining us from Fort St. John. For many people forced to leave their homes, support from neighbors is making a huge difference. The Canadian Grind, a coffee shop in Fort St. John, is offering free Java and hot chocolate to anyone fleeing Fort Nelson.
So many people are feeling the generosity, they're feeling the love, and that's what the Canadian Grind is about. We are a tiny little mom and pop shop, and it's home away from home. And to be able to have somewhere where you can bring your little children and have a hot chocolate with sprinkles and whipped cream and they're smiling, and to have coffee and just to relax and take away the chaos that's happening right now. It is incredible.
Now, as fire risk rises across our province, the municipality of Whistler has brought in a campfire ban in public areas as well as parks. But there's still not a province-wide campfire ban as we head into the Victoria Day long weekend. Category 2 and 3 open burning is banned in most of the province, except for parts of the Northwest Fire Centre, where restrictions are in place, and the Southeast Fire Centre, where there are no bans on fires right now. The BC Wildfires Service is warning people to be responsible and alert officials of any suspicious burns. Karis Hogg joins us now with a first look at the BC weather and the situation across our province. Karis.
Yes, Dan, well, taking a look here at the BC fire danger rating map, Fort Nelson right around here, and we still have high and extreme fire danger rating for the northeast corner of the province. Now, the forecast for Fort Nelson is good. It's favorable. As Michelle Gassoub said, there was rain there today, and that's good news. Wind tomorrow, but only about 20 kilometers an hour. And also there is more rain in the forecast for this evening and into tomorrow. So that's going to help. There's also some, high to extreme pockets of fire danger rating in central BC now. Looking at the precipitation forecast, this high pressure ridge that's been sitting over our province is breaking down into tomorrow. We're going to get some more precipitation elsewhere in the province, and also a little bit of snow. So that's going to affect some highways Thursday into Friday. But looking at tonight and early tomorrow, we're going to stay dry this evening and overnight. And then tomorrow morning around 7 a.m. is when we get into the wet part of our week. 60% chance of showers tomorrow, and it looks like we might even get that again on Saturday in Metro Vancouver. But I'll have more details on that later in the show.
Sounds good. Thanks, Karis. BC Ferries says it has hired more staff and beefed up its maintenance as the May-long weekend approaches. The pledges come after a string of sailing problems last summer that left many passengers in the lurch. As Hardeep Singh Nijjar reports, you are still urged to book ahead and arrive early.
8 million passengers and more than 3 million vehicles. That's the number of travelers BC Ferries is expecting to carry across the ocean waters this summer.
We've added nearly 350 additional sailings on some of our busiest routes.
And to help with the cost of traveling, BC Ferries says it's removing a 4% fuel surcharge on all fares starting June 1st.
This summer, about 30% of all fares available to book in advance on our most popular routes will be saver fares. That's more than 500,000, so 500,000 saver fares starting at just $39 for standard vehicle and driver.
It's also hired 600 new staff to address crew shortages.
We've regularized many of our casual positions, and we've given casual employees better terms and conditions of work.
But the head of the Ferry Workers Union says hiring is only one piece.
The second piece is retaining people. So we're hopeful that that will be helpful and that people will stay for the summer. We also note that there has been challenges in the past couple of summers with mechanical issues.
The company claims it's ahead of schedule on vessel maintenance and expects all 37 of its ferries to be ready for the busy summer season. The work comes after numerous sailing disruptions last year.
As a public service, we understand that it's frustrating to our customers when things don't go according to the plan. And that's what we're primarily engaged in an effort to do here.
Still, some opposition politicians have concerns.
To say I'm hopeful that lessons have been learned, well, we'll have to see because the demand's going to be high. But again, I think people are pretty skeptical when it comes to BC Ferries.
The May long weekend is functionally the first test of the system at fairly high capacity.
BC Ferry says it's also working to improve accessibility and inclusion. It plans to make hundreds of washrooms on ships and at terminals, all gender facilities, as well as offer menstrual supplies and improve signage.
We've changed our single-user public and employee washrooms to all gender spaces that provide privacy for each person using that facility.
And ahead of the long weekend, Ferries again reminds passengers to book tickets in advance and arrive early. Hardeep Singh Nijjar, CBC News, Vancouver.
To a different transportation story now, members of the Canadian Trucking Association have been rallying in Surrey, demanding more places to park their rigs across Metro Vancouver. The association's president says they've been advocating with local leaders for the last year.
And we have come together to demand a solution for a basic need for truckers. It is parking. Over the last 20 years, truck drivers and companies have been struggling to find sufficient, accessible, affordable, and safe parking spaces in the Lower Mainland.
The group says they need 2,000 more parking spaces around Surrey and Langley alone and 5,000 across the region. The leader of the BC Conservatives says it's an issue that's built up over the last 20 years.
As the Conservative Party of British Columbia, we'll sit down, we'll work with the local government, we'll work with you as an industry, and we'll make sure that we come up with a solution for today, but also build that solution for the next generations.
Truckers deliver food and other goods we buy and use every day, but often they don't have anywhere to park their rigs at night, meaning they could be fined when they park in non-designated areas. Sikh activists in Surrey held a protest outside the provincial courthouse as a fourth Indian national accused of murdering Canadian Sikh activist Hardeep Singh Nijjar appeared over the phone from Ontario. 3 other accused men, also Indian nationals, were arrested in Edmonton last week. All 4 have been charged with first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has said there is credible evidence connecting Nijjar's killing to officials in the Indian government, something Indian officials deny. Activists who gathered earlier in the day claim other people are also involved.
Yes, there is definitely more people behind this, all this, this is what's happening right now. We believe that there is more people involved in this.
The RCMP says it is still investigating to see if any of the accused in Nijjar's killing have links to the Indian government. Some challenging news for dozens of employees at Simon Fraser University. SFU has laid off about 85 people this week. The university says it's facing a big budget crunch, leading to job cuts on top of hiring freezes. As Ali Petarga reports, staff shown the door say they feel ambushed.
From instructors to bookstore workers to IT support to maintenance, SFU has let go of dozens of workers. They say it's approximately 85 positions. It's part of a restructuring effort the university announced last April as it navigates financial challenges. On top of job losses, the university also decided to rid of the English Language and Culture program. It's a training program for written and oral English.
There's been a feeling across the university of anxiety.
Scott Yano is an instructor for the program, and come September, he'll be looking for another job.
We've been going around Monday and Tuesday, and they didn't tell anybody until Monday or Tuesday, and some people were losing their work right away.
The job cuts fall under 3 groups: the Teacher Support Staff Union, the Administrative and Professional Staff Association, and QP Local 3338, which includes custodial workers. In a statement sent to CBC, SFU cites declining international student enrollment as one factor that contributed to financial challenges, and that they're required to have a balanced budget. Union leaders say the number of cuts is actually higher than 85 and suspects they're not including custodial staff laid off.
The majority of them are new immigrants or immigrants. Many of them do not speak English as a first language, and they are amongst the lowest paid, if not the lowest paid, within the SFU community. They felt dehumanized. They felt like just a number, that their years of service don't matter. One person said that they felt like they were treated like a criminal.
Some students in the English language program are going to feel the loss.
With this, like with some tasks we get and some exercises, I was not only developing my English skill because it's like more about practice.
SFU's interpretation and translation program is the last of its kind in BC.
Our students go into other universities around the province and around the country and into businesses and into different areas, and we prepare them for that.
For Yano, the ripple effects of the program's end will be widespread. Ali Petarga, CBC News, Vancouver.
The leaders of BC United and the BC Conservatives say they are in talks to find what they call common ground ahead of the provincial election set for October. BC Today's Michelle Elliott asked Rachel Siegel, who worked for the now former BC Liberal Party, whether she was surprised by news of the talks.
I would be surprised if they weren't having these talks, frankly. I think it's something that's been discussed broadly amongst us politicos throughout the province for many months, especially as we're seeing more and more polls coming out showing that the majority of British Columbians actually probably intend to not vote for the NDP in the next election. The question is, how does the center right in this province rally that vote together to defeat the NDP?
To sports now. Good news for Canucks fans who want more places to watch the boys in blue try to win the series against the Edmonton Oilers. Vancouver City and Park Board officials are adding more public viewing parties at Langara and Fraserview Golf Course clubhouses. Fans are encouraged to walk, bike, roll, or take transit to those clubhouses as parking's rather limited. The Canucks will host the Oilers on Thursday at Rogers Arena after they lost in Edmonton last night with less than a minute left. Home is more than just a place to live. After the break, we're going to speak with a Denman Island homesteader whose goal is to live sustainably. Stay with us. Home is more than just a shelter. For many, it's a safe place, something to unwind in, or a way to build community. This week, we're exploring the diverse ways people live in our province. Today, we're joined by Peter Janes. He lives and runs his own family farm on Denman Island called Tree Eater Farm and Nursery. Peter, thanks for joining us. Your lifestyle is often referred to as homesteading. What does that mean in your mind?
Homesteading to me has kind of like an old-fashioned kind of a ring to it, but I guess in a certain sense, I'm building houses out of wood from the land, and I'm growing a garden, keeping animals, planting fruit trees. So, yeah, that.
You've been homesteading for, I believe it's 20 years now. What led you to it?
I went through university, and in anthropology, environmental studies, it was all about how screwed up the world was and how terrible everything was. So it kind of just led me to want to take a different path and try to do something more responsible. So then the whole land project and education project started, and that was 20 years ago now.
Mm-hmm. How do you define sustainable living, and how does that show up in your in daily life for you?
I mean, sustainability is such a tricky word. Like, I don't think what I'm doing is sustainable, even though from the outside people might think it's like this idyllic dream of growing food. To me, it's more, sustainability is more tied in with like trying to develop a relationship with a place, and hopefully over the course of maybe a lifetime or two, developing a way of life that isn't harmful to that place, but actually in a kind of harmonious relationship with it.
What are some of the practical challenges you face every day from homesteading?
There's a lot of physical work, you know, like I spend a lot of time fixing machines and moving water around and fertilizing and weeding and stooped over producing plants for the nursery. So yeah, it's very manual, I guess you could say. Mm-hmm. And the other challenge is a lot of people don't even get here because land is so expensive, right? And then once you're living on the land, generally if you're doing kind of a regenerative job, trying to like do something responsible with your energy, you don't really make a lot of money. And then if you're trying to develop a farm, you need a lot of money because we're dealing with post-COVID and even before COVID retail prices. So there's kind of like this mismatch when you're trying to both farm and build a farm.
For people who are interested in what you do, when they come to speak with you, what's your advice to them?
Well, I'm like kind of a cynical guy, like in the sense that I'm not I'm not a booster and I'm not all rosy about how awesome everything is. So I try to give people like honest assessments of things, which is often like get a real part-time job and don't try to make money farming. You know, like make your choices. Yeah.
If you could do it over again, would you homestead again?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's what I want to do, and I really believe in the process of becoming landed in a place. So yeah, there's nothing else I would choose. Yeah.
Peter Janes, he lives and runs Tree Eater Farm and Nursery on Denman Island. We appreciate your time and telling us your experience on homesteading. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
Canada's National Housing Agency says home sales and new home constructions both dropped last month. More after the break. The latest data from the Canadian Real Estate Association shows sales dipped in April compared to the month before, and prices have flattened in most of the country, except Saskatoon, Edmonton, and Calgary. In that city, condo sales are hot. Paula Duhachik explains what's behind the numbers.
Normally, spring is the hottest time of year for the housing market. But not this time around. Listings were up in April, but prices were flat, and Canadians bought fewer homes than expected.
Even though we saw that influx of new listings, we have budget-constrained buyers who still appear to be at a standstill, just waiting for those rate cuts and for affordability to improve before entering the market.
There is an exception to every rule. Prices are still climbing in the Prairies, Saskatoon, Edmonton, and especially Calgary.
It's been Canada's housing market hotspot for a few consecutive months now.
Higher prices here driven by people moving west in search of a cheaper place to live.
It's been pretty consistent with people calling from Vancouver, Toronto, other major cities in Canada, looking to make a move over here to Alberta and Calgary in general.
Other buyers are scooping up properties without ever setting foot in this province.
Nowadays, I help investors across Canada to buy and invest in pre-construction properties in Calgary that are AAA, have great cash flow, and significant appreciation potential.
This real estate broker tells buyers they can get a Calgary condo for roughly half what they can in Toronto and rent it out as an investment property.
You have double-digit price gains in the condo market, in the townhomes, in the freehold market, which is very attractive.
Interest from both inside and outside the province means plenty of people are betting on Calgary, a market that's had plenty of ups and downs that tend to swing with the Alberta economy.
We are seeing a lot of bidding wars where clients are going to have to offer significantly higher than what the list price is, and sometimes have to write unconditional in order to secure the property.
As for the rest of Canada, RBC expects it will take deeper rate cuts to coax buyers off the bench and into the housing market. Paula Duhachik, CBC News, Calgary.
McGill University has been denied an injunction to dismantle the pro-Palestinian encampment on its downtown campus. McGill's lawyers argued the demonstration poses risks to security and hygiene. They also claimed it's disrupting the school's plans for upcoming convocation ceremonies. But a judge says McGill did not prove there's an urgent need to remove the camp and adds there haven't been any serious or violent incidents since tents were set up late last month. That encampment is now in its third week, and this is the second failed injunction attempt. As the war in Gaza grinds on, Palestinians around the world are marking an event that has come to shape their national identity. They call it the Nakba, a day to remember the land and homes the Palestinians lost when the modern state of Israel was formed in 1948. The CBC's Chris Brown explains.
In the occupied West Bank city of Ramallah, a siren wailed, and people wore the colors of Palestinian nationalism. For most Palestinians, the Nakba, or catastrophe in Arabic, is the defining event of their history, when in earlier generation, roughly 700,000 people fled or were expelled around the time the State of Israel was created.
It affects me because after 75 years, this is still happening and it's gotten so much worse. It's sickening.
For many here, there are powerful echoes with the events of 76 years ago. Mass displacements in Gaza and Palestinian communities fighting for their existence.
Mustafa is 80 years old, a child when his family fled from their village close to where Ben Gurion Airport was eventually built. He tears up talking about his family's loss, but he says it does not compare to what Gaza is enduring now. The Israelis didn't kill like the way they're killing now, he says. What's happening in Gaza is unprecedented. Children are in pieces. In Gaza, the UN says 450,000 have fled Israel's offensive in Rafah, the southern city many have been told to move to for safety. The 48 Nakba was easier than today's Nakba, said Ahmed Musleh. Today's Nakba is general misery for everyone. The UN says more than 35,000 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza since Hamas attacked Israel on October the 7th, killing 1,200. Israel then retaliated, leaving Gaza in ruins. We were bombed and then we came here and 22 were martyred. I buried them all one by one, said Abdel Nasser Abdel Bari. This is the destruction of what we spent our entire lives building. The fighting appears to be worsening, with Israel claiming it's killed dozens of militant fighters in the last 24 hours, and Gaza health officials saying 82 more Palestinians are dead. Chris Brown, CBC News, Ramallah.
Ukrainian troops are pulling back from more positions near the important city of Kharkiv tonight as Russian advance continues to claim more ground. Long-delayed U.S. military aid is now starting to trickle in, but as Katie Simpson explains, there's a growing fear it's coming too late.
In the heart of this residential Kharkiv neighborhood, there is panic and pain as some 20 Ukrainian civilians are hurt in yet another Russian airstrike. The recent attacks seem relentless, triggering dangerous evacuations in some parts of the city. All while Ukrainian soldiers have been unable to hold off advancing Russian ground troops along the northeastern front. It is in this difficult moment that the U.S. Secretary of State is wrapping up his reassurance mission to Ukraine, highlighting the $61 billion weapons and aid package American lawmakers finally approved after months of contentious debate and delays.
We're rushing ammunition, armored vehicles, missiles, air defenses, rushing them to get to the front lines.
Some now blame those delays, at least partly, for Ukraine's recent setbacks. The United States aid is crucial, and the pause of arms had a significant impact, says this Ukrainian lawmaker. The front line is moving faster than we would like, he says. It is a direct consequence of deliveries being on hold.
Ukraine really cannot wait for these U.S. munitions to arrive, the $61 billion in aid. They are in a real hurt box right now.
Ukraine's struggles are being celebrated in Moscow, where President Vladimir Putin held a meeting with his military leaders. The work is proceeding according to the plan, Putin said, vowing to supply his troops with all of the weapons they may need. Russia's advances are so concerning that Ukraine's president has canceled all of his travel to focus on frontline fighting. The White House says it's working on an additional weapons package. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington.
International troops, some trained by Canadian forces, are expected to arrive in Haiti within days. They'll try to restore order in the Caribbean state, which has been plagued by gang violence and lawlessness for months. More than 2,500 people have been killed or hurt in the first 4 months of the year alone. The CBC's Paul Hunter is in Haiti with more.
We're here in Cap-Haïtien, Haiti, effectively on the way to Port-au-Prince, where gangs have all but overrun Haiti's capital. Here in Cap-Haïtien, they're taking steps to make sure the gangs don't get into this city. And here's an example of that. One of the police checkpoints you see throughout the city, stopping random vehicles, checking papers, looking for ID. This is happening all over the place. Again, efforts to keep gangs in Port-au-Prince, keep them, for the moment anyway, in Port-au-Prince. We've been speaking with Haitians on the street here about the situation broadly because what happens in Port-au-Prince is affecting the whole country. There is no functioning government. And people here are not just frustrated, but angry at the mess that Haiti is continuing to spiral into.
We need freedom, we need job, we need hospital, we need education. We need to live like human beings. We need to live like people. We are not living. We live like animals.
In Port-au-Prince, the brutal violence drags on. Kidnappings, rapes, killings continue. Gangs control almost all of the city, including the roads in and out of it. And for those who haven't fled the city, famine now looms. Coming to help, foreign forces led by Kenya, but also including forces from Jamaica, Bahamas, Belize, some of them trained by the Canadian military, expected to land in Haiti within days, certainly before the end of the month. Their mandate is to help Haitian police try to combat the gangs in Port-au-Prince. The police there right now are outgunned. In the meantime, in Cap-Haïtien, they're doing what they can to keep the gangs out of this city. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Cap-Haïtien, Haiti.
The first election debate between U.S. President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump this year is set to take place next month. That news was confirmed by CNN, which is hosting that event. But as Richard Madden explains, it's a departure from tradition. Debates usually take place later in the election year and are organized by an independent commission.
Well, this morning, President Joe Biden issued the challenge on social media, which set in motion one of the earliest confirmed presidential face-offs in modern history.
Well, make my day, pal. I'll even do it twice. So let's pick the dates, Donald. I hear you're free on Wednesdays.
Now, Wednesdays is a reference to when former President Donald Trump's criminal hush money trial is on break. Now, Trump quickly accepted, posting, "I'm ready and willing to debate Crooked Joe at 2 proposed times," adding, "Just tell me when, I'll be there. Let's get ready to rumble." Within hours, the two agreed on dates. June 27th, hosted by CNN, the second on September 10th, hosted by ABC. Trump's campaign even agreeing to the Biden campaign's debate conditions.
We want to do this sooner rather than later. We should do it in June after his criminal trial is likely to have concluded. It should be, yes, in studio with no audience so that the candidates can clearly articulate their visions for the country, free of distractions, free of spectacle.
Now, the rules also state microphones can only be turned on when a candidate speaks, no interruptions, no spectacles, and cutting out third-party candidate Robert Kennedy Jr. from participating. Now, this arrangement upends long-standing tradition and bypasses the Presidential Debates Commission that traditionally organized debates in the fall. Now, Trump wants to hold 2 more. It's unclear if those will happen, but both campaigns believe an earlier debate schedule will give voters a clearer contrast in a close election. Polls suggest few Americans are excited for. Richard Madden, CBC News, Washington.
An area still scarred from devastating fires years ago, now on the run again. We're going to take you to Fort McMurray, where thousands of people have been asked to leave as a wildfire threatens that community once more. Stay with us. Parts of the world have been suffering extreme weather events in recent days. Storms and heavy rains have triggered floods and landslides. Hundreds of people have been killed in Afghanistan after flash flooding ripped through villages there, sweeping away homes and livestock. As Susan Ormiston reports, the UN considers it among the most vulnerable countries to climate change.
Flash floods triggered by torrential rains swamped villages and in hours tore through farmland. This man watched in horror from his roof. Mud suffocated crops and filled homes, the worst flooding in Afghanistan in more than 3 decades. They're now burying loved ones. Over 300 died. Mohammed lost 13 family members and all his livestock.
They've lost their houses, but what they're most concerned about is having lost their livelihoods because they know that the future looks very, very bleak.
The World Food Programme and the International Rescue Committee are rushing in emergency supplies. Afghanistan had been bracing for another summer of crippling drought. The severe flooding came without warning.
This season, which is like very less likely for having this kind of rains and flash flood, it is like a big alert, and the international community should consider this, and we should act as soon as possible.
Across the world, flooding is also battering southern Brazil. The capital of Rio Grande do Sul is still submerged after rivers burst their banks. Over 500,000 people are out of their homes.
Nunca chorei na minha vida. Nunca.
I've never cried in my life, says this man who lost his house in water as deep as 8 meters.
Dessa vez eu chorei.
This time I cried. Your whole life is there. Climate scientists point to a much warmer South Atlantic Ocean coupled with water vapor in Amazonia, which unleashed unrelenting rain in the south, another climate emergency.
Last year in 2023, we had the strongest drought in Amazonia over the last 120 years. This shows how unprepared developing countries are to deal with this kind of climate extremes on both sides.
As Brazilian authorities warn, more rain is on its way. Susan Ormiston, CBC News, Toronto.
An Alberta community still scarred by a fire that ripped through its neighborhoods is on the move again. In Fort McMurray, nearly 7,000 people are once again being told to leave their homes. Sam Sampson has the latest.
This is Prairie Creek. It's one of the neighborhoods in Fort McMurray that was told to get out on Tuesday. Now, as you can see here, if you can prove that you actually live in the neighborhood, RCMP are letting people in on a case-by-case basis to grab essentials that maybe they missed when they were trying to evacuate as quickly as possible. We did meet one man earlier who came back to grab a generator, some work gear, things for his sons. They're all staying at a campground about an hour and a half away from here, and he told us what it was like to try to get out as fast as possible.
I have no time yesterday, like I back from site, so I just grab what my wife prepared for us, and then I just take my camper and we go to Wander River and stay in a camper for now.
We met another man who was trying to come in just to sleep for a little bit. He and another team are helping to create fire breaks around the city, so really paths where it would be difficult for the flames to get through. And he just described his exhaustion and what his shifts are like.
I got up here, pulled a 4-hour shift, then got a couple hours sleep, went on a 37-hour shift, then went home, 3 hours of sleep, and went on 12 hours last night, cutting fire guard.
About 6,600 people were ordered to leave their homes here in Fort McMurray, but we did see thousands of other people also leave just as a precaution. Whoever stayed is still on an evacuation alert, and the mayor described how he's seeing his community pull together.
We see community groups stepping up, our social profit groups stepping up to check on our vulnerable residents. We see local restaurants donating food and that sort of things to first responders.
As of Wednesday, there is a new fire ban in effect for a larger portion of northern Alberta to try to stave off any new fires. Now, cooler temperatures and pretty calm winds helped firefighting efforts in Fort McMurray on Wednesday, but officials say it's too early to know if more neighborhoods will be ordered to leave in the city. Officials also say and warn that evacuees from these neighborhoods should be prepared to be out of their homes until at least after the May long weekend. Sam Sampson, CBC News, Fort McMurray, Alberta.
Karis Hogg joins us once again with the BC-wide forecast and beyond. Karis, what's going to happen in Fort McMurray in the coming days?
Well, taking a look here first at what sort of happened today, the satellite and radar over the past 24 hours for BC and Alberta. Now, Fort McMurray's around here, Fort Nelson is around here, and they both got some precipitation today, and so that's good news for those communities that are being threatened by fire. Also, you can see there was some precipitation through the central part of the province as well. This high-pressure ridge that we've been sitting under in BC is starting to break down. So let's look at the precipitation forecast. So now there is rain in the forecast for Fort McMurray and Fort Nelson tonight into tomorrow. That's good news. Also, not a lot of wind forecast for those locations. That is also helpful when it comes to dealing with those fires. Now here early Friday, you can see there's also some snow in the forecast for parts of BC. And when we play this out a little bit further, we get into Saturday into Sunday, we get kind of a flush of precipitation across the province. Now, speaking of snow, there is a special weather statement from Environment Canada regarding snow on highways, on mountain passes Thursday night to Friday morning. Coquihalla Highway, Okanagan Connector, Allison Pass, Kootenay Pass, Begbie Summit, and Rogers Pass. You could see about 2 to 5 centimeters, but it could be a little bit more in localized areas. And also, even on Saturday morning, you could see some snow on those stretches of highway as well. So be aware of that. It's going to be a little windy if you're in Victoria near the water this evening. Wind gusts of 80 kilometers an hour. So be prepared for that tonight. Lots of wind heading towards Vancouver Island. And now we'll just take a look at the 5-day Metro Vancouver forecast. It's going to be rainy tomorrow, 60% chance of rain. And Friday, get a break. And then again, Saturday, 60% chance of showers.
And in amongst all this, we have to remember we do need more precipitation.
Yes, absolutely.
Karis, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Two people who share the same name meet for the very first time despite being continents apart. The chat between two Justin McElroys. You will want to see and hear this. Stick around.
Well, this is pretty cool. Worlds collided recently on CBC Radio's On the Coast. Comedian and host of the advice podcast, My Brother and Me, Justin McElroy, joined Gloria Makarenko in studio.
McElroy was in Vancouver on his North American tour, narrowly missing his named twin, the CBC's municipal affairs reporter, who's currently gallivanting around the world.
But we do have to clear up any confusion right off the top here. You are not the Justin McElroy who works here at CBC Vancouver. He's currently on sabbatical. How often have you been confused with our Justin?
Well, downstairs, as recently as 5 minutes ago, when the security guard looked at me very suspiciously and said, "You've been here a few times. Why are you saying this is your first visit?" It's like, hold on, let me back up. It's a different Justin McElroy. And then I had to say, I'm the American Justin McElroy, which seems bizarre. I've never really thought of myself that way, but sure, I'm the American Justin McElroy. It happens a lot because we have weirdly overlapping media presences, I guess you could say.
Well, both kind of quirky media presences, would you say?
There's a lot of, he stumbles into a lot of Disney ranking type things. That's very much, the guy knows how to fill out a button-down all-over print shirt just as well as I do. That's huge. I tell you, Gloria, this is not exaggeration. I like to track down the best donuts in every city we tour in. I looked up an article today, Best Donuts Vancouver. You will never believe who the author was. Yes, it was me, but not me. It was Canadian Justin McElroy, which I'm sure he loves to be delineated that way.
Well, and he would love your shirt today, too. I have to say.
It was
lots of patterns.
in tribute. And this is Orange Bird from the Walt Disney World Park, so I thought he would enjoy
it's
that.
lovely. There's big animated oranges on there, birds, flowers. It's jumping out at us. It really is. Now, so this is a comedy advice show that you and your brothers have. Just how seriously do people take your advice, though?
We, for example, have been doing this for 13 years. We've never had a follow-up episode to see how anything worked out for anybody. I have no idea how any of it has gone. I'm assuming fine. The lawyers haven't shown up, so I think we've been okay.
For someone who hasn't heard your show yet, what would be your reason to tune in?
Oh golly. It's so hard to say I promise my brothers and I are funny, but darn it, Gloria, it's the best I got. I promise my brothers and I are funny, and we try to do our best to be kind and put sort of kindness into the world. And you know what? I like to think that's something that I share with Canadian Justin McElroy. I think we like to have a little more positivity. I do wish he had a long stint in crime that ended up with me getting a lot of interesting emails about bodies located throughout the country. So I'm glad he's off of that beat. My email's a lot less CSI than it used to be.
Since you are an advice columnist, let's just give this a shot, because we've got a listener with a question for you.
Please, yeah, anything.
Hi there, Gloria, long-time listener, first-time caller. Justin, I have a question for you. Let's say you have a certain type of job where you talk to lots of people, say a local news reporter, for example, but something keeps coming up. Everyone keeps confusing you for someone who has the same name as you, who's much, 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 much more famous. What, Justin McElroy, would you do in that situation?
Honestly, I'm so saddened that I'm not going to meet the actual Justin McElroy while I'm here in Vancouver. It's a heartbreaker, honestly. But I think it's probably better for the universe. It may be one of those parallel dimension paradox things where the two of us actually shake hands. It's a supernova or what have you. So, Justin, I would just keep, avoiding controversy, because that would definitely get you over the top on the Google rankings, but I don't think that's a path you want to go down.
Now, Justin McElroy, CBC Justin McElroy, where have we caught up with you today?
I'm in the Buenos Aires airport in Argentina, about ready to go to Iguazu Falls to see that, and then off to the Amazon, and it's been a wonderful 2 months so far. It's going to be a wonderful 10 months after this, but it's lovely to pop in to talk to you for just a couple minutes.
Justin, our paths have diverged so wildly hearing about how you're spending your free time, my friend. The most exotic vacation that I prefer the Mexico Pavilion at Epcot. You have really blown me out of the water with this trek through the jungles. I will assure you, no one will confuse you for me there. If anyone sees it with a machete in hand or what have you, no one will confuse the two of us. If I'm wearing a sun hat, everyone is panicking.
This is just such a marvelous moment, getting two Justin McElroys connected right across continents even. Listen, and you should have seen the look on Justin Brothers Justin here in studio.
We've got to come up with a better system, everybody.
American Justin here with me in studio.
Normally, I'm the other Justin. If you look on Reddit, the phrase "the other Justin McElroy" pops up like 85 times because it is such a weird confluence of its characters. But right now, Justin, you are the other Justin McElroy.
Yeah,
in
for
Vancouver,
sure.
And I hope you enjoy the weirdness and the joy of my city for a day or two.
Hey, Justin, have you ever given any thought to making the switch, in your later in your career to do all three names? Do you have a middle name you'd like to bring into your professional persona? Some of that extra class, extra dignity.
Well, I do. It's Douglas, and I have to use on Instagram. You have Justin McElroy, so I have to use Justin D. McElroy, for example.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I have JustinMcElroy.com, and you don't.
Oh, I know you have JustinMcElroy.com. I'm well aware, Canadian Justin McElroy, that you have JustinMcElroy.com. Couldn't settle for Justin McElroy CA, even though that would have been much less confusing for everybody.
But, I just like the officiality of the .com. So already I have to sacrifice in some places.
I'll tell you what, I'll leave the Instagram handle to you in my will. You leave the .com to me and yours, and we'll just have a tontine, a very 2024 tontine to see who gets both the online personas.
Justin in Buenos Aires, you've got a plane to catch. And when are you going to be back in Vancouver? You've got how many, 40 more countries to visit?
Yeah, something like that. It's birthday to birthday. So I left on March 11th. I'll be coming back on March 11th. I've already got the plane ticket booked from New Zealand. And until then, it's about 40 more countries to go. And it's been such an experience so far. And I can't wait for the rest of it, as much as I'll continue to miss you and everyone else in Vancouver.
We miss you too. Have a great trip. Thank you.
Thanks, Gloria. Thanks, Justin.
Thank you, Justin. I appreciate it. It's good to talk to you.
Good fun. Thanks for being with us tonight on CBC Vancouver News at 6.
Tanya Fletcher will have your next local news at 11 o'clock online, so you can join her on our website, on YouTube, or on CBC Gem. Good night.